Dr. Rena Vale never expected her first day aboard Nexus Station to involve breaking every known law of xenobiology. The human trauma surgeon stood before the emergency bay doors, watching as medical droids rushed past with a critically injured crystalline being. Their translucent body was fractured in multiple places, azure light dimming with each passing second. Species: luminary. Critical structural integrity failure. Conventional regeneration protocols failing, announced the medical eye, its holographic interface flickering with urgency symbols. The attending physician, Dr. Zixtal, a towering arachnoid with methodically moving appendages, turned to Rena. "Dr. Vale, I understand you have experience with severe trauma cases." Rena stepped forward, already scanning the patient's vital readings. The fractures are spreading. Their core temperature is dropping rapidly. She frowned, noting patterns in the crystal structure. "This looks similar to stress fractures I've treated in human bone tissue." Dr. Zixtal's compound eyes flickered in confusion. "Impossible. Luminary physiology bears no resemblance to human skeletal structure." "Maybe not in composition," Rena muttered, "but the propagation patterns are identical." She pulled up the patient's molecular structure on a holographic display. "Look here. The crystal matrix is trying to realign itself, just like human bone during the initial healing phase." "Luminary do not heal naturally," Dr. Zixtal stated firmly. "They require synthetic crystal grafts and molecular restructuring." Rena's eyes lit up with the kind of inspiration that usually preceded either a breakthrough or a catastrophe. "What if that's the problem? We're fighting their body's natural responses instead of working with them." Before Dr. Zixtal could protest, Rena grabbed a medical stimulator and adjusted its frequency. "If I'm right, their crystal structure should respond to targeted vibrations, similar to how ultrasound promotes human bone healing." "Dr. Vale, this is highly irregular." "They'll shatter completely in the next 10 minutes if we don't try something," Rena interrupted, already positioning the stimulator over the largest fracture. "Sometimes you have to work with biology, not against it." The next few minutes were tense as Rena carefully applied the modified treatment. To everyone's astonishment, the fractures began to stabilize. Tiny crystal filaments started growing across the breaks, forming natural bridges between the damaged sections. "Impossible," whispered Dr. Zixtal, all 8 eyes wide. "They're regenerating." "Not regenerating," Rena corrected, carefully monitoring the process. "They're healing." "There's a difference. Regeneration is replacement. Healing is adaptation and growth." She adjusted the stimulator's frequency slightly. "Every living thing has some capacity to heal. We just have to understand how to encourage it." Word of the unprecedented procedure spread quickly through Nexus Station. Within hours, the emergency bay was crowded with curious medical personnel from dozens of species. The luminary patient, now stable and showing signs of natural crystal regrowth, became the center of an impromptu medical conference. High Administrator Venra, a being composed of shifting plasma contained within an environmental suit, arrived to investigate personally. "Dr. Vale, your unconventional treatment has caused quite a stir. The Galactic Medical Council is particularly interested in your methodology." Rena shrugged, reviewing the patient's latest scans. "It's really not that revolutionary. Humans have been studying healing processes for centuries. We just never realized other species might have similar capabilities." "Similar capabilities?" Venra's plasma form swirled with interest. "Are you suggesting that humans regularly experience such structural repairs?" "Well, yes. Our bones heal naturally all the time. Break an arm. Give it a few weeks in a cast, and the bone knits itself back together, sometimes stronger than before." The crowd of medical personnel moved back slightly. Someone dropped an instrument tray with a clatter. Administrator Venra's plasma form flickered rapidly, the equivalent of a shocked blink. "Stronger than before," they repeated carefully. "You're saying humans not only repair damage but improve upon their original structure?" "In some cases, yes. It's why proper bone setting is so important. The healing process can actually reinforce the break point. Rena noticed the growing tension in the room and added, "It's completely natural. Nothing to worry about." "Nothing to worry about," echoed Dr. Zixtel faintly. "Humans just casually rebuild themselves. Stronger. Better." "Speaking of which," Rena said, checking her medical scanner, "my broken finger from this morning's accident is healing nicely. Should be good as new in a few weeks." The emergency bay cleared out remarkably quickly after that announcement. Only Dr. Zixtel remained, their appendages twitching thoughtfully. "Dr. Vale, I believe you may have just revolutionized galactic medicine, or started an interstellar panic. Possibly both." Rena smiled, already planning her next round of treatment for the luminary patient. "Well, they say the best medical breakthroughs usually do both. Now, shall we document this procedure for the medical council? I have some theories about applying similar principles to other crystalline species." The news of human healing capabilities spread through Nexus Station like wildfire, and Rena couldn't help but wonder what the coming days would bring. One thing was certain: the galaxy's understanding of healing was about to change dramatically. The Galactic Medical Council's emergency session was held in a chamber that somehow managed to accommodate 37 different environmental requirements simultaneously. Dr. Rena Vale sat in the center, feeling rather like a specimen under a microscope as countless alien eyes, sensors, and other sensory organs focused on her. First speaker Kilara, a being composed of interwoven streams of light and vapor, addressed the assembly. "We are here to discuss the implications of recent events on Nexus Station. Dr. Vale's demonstration of human healing capabilities has raised concerns." Concerns? A quantum collective representative flickered in and out of multiple dimensions. A species that can repair itself without technological intervention goes beyond mere concern. It violates fundamental principles of entropy. Rena resisted the urge to roll her eyes. She'd spent the last week being studied, questioned, and occasionally scanned by increasingly alarmed alien scientists. With all due respect, natural healing is hardly a violation of physics. It's just biology. "Just biology," she says, muttered a hive mind representative, their 1,000 tiny components shuddering in unison, as if spontaneous tissue regeneration is a simple matter. Dr. Zixtel, who had been appointed as Rena's official liaison, raised several appendages for attention. "If I may, the implications extend beyond the initial case. Since Dr. Vale's demonstration, we've successfully applied similar principles to 3 other species previously thought incapable of natural healing." Holograms appeared above the chamber center, showing medical data from various cases. A crystalline being regenerating damaged facets, a silicon-based life form repairing molecular bonds, even a gaseous entity stabilizing its own atomic structure. In each case, Zixtel continued, we discovered that these species possess dormant healing capabilities. They simply never evolved to use them, relying instead on technological solutions. And how did humans develop such abilities? First speaker Kilara's light patterns shifted with curiosity. What evolutionary pressures could possibly? Oh, that's simple, Rena interrupted. We had to. Earth's pretty dangerous. If we couldn't heal from injuries, we wouldn't have survived long enough to develop technology in the first place. The chamber fell silent. Even the quantum fluctuations seemed to pause. Are you suggesting, the hive mind representative said carefully, that humans developed advanced biological repair mechanisms before technology? Well, yeah. How else would we have survived all the broken bones from falling out of trees while we were still figuring out tools? Rena shrugged. It's not like we could just pop down to the medical bay for a synthetic bone graft back then. A wave of murmuring swept through the assembly. The idea of a species developing biological solutions before technological ones seemed to challenge everything they understood about civilizational development. This explains much about human medical practices, Dr. Zixtel noted. Their approach has always been to support natural healing processes rather than replace them entirely. Which brings us to our primary concern. First speaker Kilara interjected. If humans possess such remarkable healing capabilities naturally, what other biological functions have they retained? What other evolutionary advantages might they be concealing? Rena noticed several security drones quietly entering the chamber. Great. Just what she needed. To be classified as a potential biological threat to galactic stability. Look, she said, standing up. I get that this is all a bit shocking for you. But human healing isn't some kind of superpower. It's just our bodies doing what they evolved to do. And if my research is correct, most of your species can do it too. You've just forgotten how. She pulled up her own holographic display, showing comparative biological data. See these cellular response patterns? They're nearly universal. The main difference is that humans never stopped using them. We never had the luxury of perfect medical technology, so we had to maintain our natural healing abilities. And you believe these abilities could be reawakened in other species. The quantum collective representatives seemed intrigued despite their earlier alarm. That's exactly what I'm saying. The luminary case wasn't just a one-off miracle. It was proof that natural healing is a fundamental aspect of life, one that technology might have accidentally suppressed in many species. First speaker Kilara's light patterns shifted through complex frequencies. This could revolutionize galactic medicine, or destabilize it entirely. Only if you let fear override scientific curiosity, Rena countered. Think about it. What if we could combine advanced medical technology with enhanced natural healing? The possibilities are endless. The chamber erupted in discussion, with various factions arguing the implications. Some saw the potential for medical advancement, others worried about the disruption to established practices, and a few seemed concerned that humans might start spontaneously evolving new abilities during the debate. Dr. Zixtel moved closer to Rena. You realize you've just challenged several thousand years of medical doctrine. Tuesday's really bringing the chaos this week, Rena grinned. Want to help me revolutionize galactic medicine? The arachnoid doctor's compound eyes flickered with what might have been amusement. I suspect I don't have a choice. The question is the galaxy ready for human-style healing? As the debate raged on around them, Rena watched the security drones gradually power down and exit the chamber. Perhaps the galaxy was more ready than they thought. After all, if there's one thing humans had learned from their long history of healing, it's that growth often comes from embracing change rather than fearing it. The headlines across the galactic news networks told the story. Humans, natural aliers or biological anomalies. Medical Council debates, human healing abilities, are we ready for self-repairing species? In her temporary quarters aboard the Galactic Medical Council's research vessel, Dr. Rena Vale scrolled through the reports with growing concern. The past month had seen her work with Dr. Zixtel spark both breakthrough discoveries and mounting anxiety throughout civilized space. Your morning briefing, Doctor, announced her eye assistant, projecting a holographic summary. 3 more medical facilities have successfully replicated your healing protocols. However, the Syndicate of Synthetic Species has filed a formal protest, claiming natural healing gives organic life forms an unfair evolutionary advantage. Rena snorted, because apparently surviving injury is cheating now. A gentle chime announced Dr. Zixtel's arrival. The arachnoid physician's normally precise movements seemed agitated. We have a situation, Dr. Vale. The Militarized Systems Alliance is demanding access to all human medical records. They're convinced your healing abilities have military applications. Of course they are, Rena sighed. Because heaven forbid we focus on saving lives instead of finding new ways to end them. There's more, Zixtel continued. Several developing species have requested immediate quarantine of human territories, citing concerns about uncontrolled biological advancement. They seem to think humans might spontaneously evolve new abilities at any moment. Before Rena could respond, her communicator buzzed with an urgent message. The holoscreen showed a chaotic scene in a distant medical facility. A vaporous entity, one of the gaseous species, was rapidly destabilizing despite being in a containment field. "This is Dr. Fexel," a frantic voice reported. "We attempted to replicate the human healing protocol, but something's wrong. The patient's atomic structure is reorganizing too quickly. We can't control the process." Rena was already grabbing her medical kit. "Send me the coordinates. Dr. Zixtal, I need your expertise with gaseous physiology." Minutes later, they were aboard an emergency transport, racing through hyperspace. Rena studied the patient's data, her mind racing through possibilities. "They tried to force the healing process," she muttered. "Used too much energy, too quickly. They're treating it like technology instead of biology." "Most species have forgotten there's a difference," Zixtal observed, manipulating a complex series of holographic models. "We've relied on machines for so long, we've forgotten how to work with natural processes." The medical facility was in chaos when they arrived. The vaporous patient had been moved to an isolation chamber, their gaseous form swirling in patterns that defied normal physics. Dr. Fexel, a towering crystalline being, met them at the entrance. "We've tried everything in our protocols. Nothing works." "Because you're fighting the process," Rena said, already adjusting the containment field settings. "Natural healing isn't about control, it's about guidance. Dr. Zixtal, can you modulate the energy field to match their natural frequency?" Working together, they carefully adjusted the chamber's parameters. Slowly, the chaotic swirling began to stabilize. The patient's atomic structure started settling into new, stronger patterns. "Remarkable," Dr. Fexel whispered. "They're not just stabilizing, they're adapting, creating new molecular bonds we've never seen before." "That's what natural healing does," Rena explained. "It doesn't just repair damage, it learns from it, adapts, improves." She smiled at Dr. Zixtal. "Kind of like how species evolve, right?" The arachnoid doctor's compound eyes flickered with understanding. "Perhaps that's what truly frightens some about human healing. It's not just the repair process, it's the reminder that life is meant to change, to adapt. And we've forgotten that," Dr. Fexel added, watching the vaporous patient continue to stabilize. "We've become so focused on maintaining perfect stability that we've forgotten how to grow." As news of the successful intervention spread, Rena noticed a subtle shift in the galactic response to human healing. Fear began giving way to curiosity. Species that had initially demanded quarantine now sent medical observers. The syndicate of synthetic species withdrew their protest, instead proposing a joint study of biological adaptation principles. Later, reviewing the day's events in her quarters, Rena received an unexpected message from the Galactic Medical Council. They were establishing a new division, the Department of Natural Healing Arts, and they wanted her to lead it. "Well," she said to Dr. Zixtal, who had stayed to help analyze the data from their intervention, "looks like the galaxy might be ready for a little human-style healing after all." "Indeed," the arachnoid doctor replied. "Though I suspect teaching the galaxy to embrace change may be your greatest healing challenge yet." Rena grinned, already planning new research protocols. Good thing humans are pretty good at handling challenges. After all, that's how we learned to heal in the first place. Outside her viewport, the stars streaked past in endless rivers of light, each one potentially holding new species waiting to rediscover their own healing abilities. The galaxy was changing, evolving, and maybe, just maybe, healing itself in the process. The emergency alert shattered the relative calm of the Galactic Medical Council's research facility. Dr. Rena Vale was deep in a consultation with a group of quantum physicians when the news arrived. A catastrophic reactor breach aboard the Centauri mining colony. Estimated casualties? Rena asked, already rushing toward the emergency response bay with Dr. Zixtal at her side. "Unknown," the AI reported. "But the radiation levels are beyond conventional treatment protocols. Multiple species affected. The colony's medical facilities are overwhelmed." "This is exactly what the fearmongers warned about," muttered a passing official. "Humans and their natural healing being our only hope in a crisis." Rena ignored the comment, focusing instead on gathering her team. A diverse group of physicians she trained in natural healing techniques over the past months. They boarded the emergency medical vessel, already reviewing the colony's data. The scene that greeted them was chaos incarnate. The colony's main medical bay was packed with victims of varying species, each reacting differently to the radiation exposure. Traditional radiation treatments were failing faster than they could be administered. Their bodies are fighting the wrong battle, Rena observed, scanning a group of crystalline miners whose usually transparent forms had turned cloudy with radiation damage. The synthetic treatments are suppressing their natural responses instead of enhancing them. Dr. Zixtel moved swiftly between patients, their multiple appendages working in perfect coordination. These radiation levels, even human healing capabilities, might be overwhelmed. Maybe, Rena agreed. But what if we could amplify everyone's natural healing response? Not just humans, every species. She pulled up the research data they'd gathered over the past months. Look at these patterns. Every species we've studied has shown some form of natural radiation resistance, even if they don't actively use it. A young vaporous doctor, Dr. Nexus, who had been one of Rena's most enthusiastic students, swirled excitedly. The cellular response matrices, they're almost identical across species when stripped down to basic energy patterns. Exactly, Rena said. We don't need to treat the radiation damage directly. We need to wake up each species' dormant defense mechanisms. She turned to her team. Spread out. Start implementing the natural healing protocols we developed. Adapt them to each species' specific biology. The next hours were a blur of activity. Rena moved from patient to patient, adjusting treatments, guiding her team. They used modified frequency generators to stimulate natural healing responses, carefully calibrated to each species' unique biology. Slowly, remarkably, it began to work. Crystalline beings began purging radiation damage through controlled fracturing and regeneration. Vaporous entities stabilized their atomic structures in new, more resistant patterns. Even the highly susceptible silicon-based life forms showed signs of adaptation. It's not just healing, Dr. Nexus observed in awe. They're developing radiation resistance. Their bodies are learning, adapting, just like humans do. That's the true power of natural healing, Rena explained, watching as a previously critical patient began to stabilize. It's not about returning to what you were. It's about becoming stronger through adversity. News of their success spread quickly through the galaxy. What had started as a catastrophe became a turning point in galactic medicine. Species that had feared human healing abilities now sought to understand and develop their own natural resilience. In the aftermath, as the last patients were discharged, Rena found herself in the colony's observation dome with Dr. Zixtel and Dr. Nexus, watching the stars through the radiation-scarred but healing transparent panels. The Galactic Council is calling it a miracle, Dr. Nexus commented, their gaseous form rippling with excitement. No, Rena corrected. It's just life doing what it's meant to do. Adapt and survive. We just had to remember how to let it. Dr. Zixtel's compound eyes flickered thoughtfully. Perhaps that's the real lesson humans have taught us. Not just how to heal, but how to trust in life's inherent ability to overcome challenges. As they watched, maintenance bots began repairing the dome's panels. But beneath the synthetic repairs, Rena could see the transparent material itself was changing, becoming stronger, more resilient, just like the beings it protected. You know, she said, for all our advanced technology and medical knowledge, sometimes the best healing comes from simply remembering what our bodies already know how to do. The stars continued their eternal dance above them, witnesses to yet another step in the galaxy's evolution. And somewhere out there, countless species were rediscovering their own capacity for healing, growth, and adaptation, a gift that had been within them all along, just waiting to be remembered. 1 year after the Centauri colony incident, the Grand Hall of the Galactic Medical Council hosted an unprecedented gathering. Representatives from every known spacefaring species filled the chamber, their diversity a testament to how far they'd come. Dr. Rena Vale stood at the podium, still somewhat amazed at how much had changed. When I first demonstrated natural healing techniques on Nexus Station, she began, many thought it would destabilize galactic medicine. Instead, it has transformed it. Today, we celebrate not just human healing abilities, but the rediscovery of every species' innate capacity for adaptation and growth. The holographic displays around the chamber showed the progress. Crystalline beings teaching their young about natural restructuring, vaporous entities practicing controlled atomic stabilization, even the formerly resistant synthetic species incorporating biological healing principles into their designs. Dr. Zixtel, now Director of Interspecies Medical Research, stepped forward. Our latest studies have revealed something remarkable. As species rediscover their healing abilities, they're developing unique adaptations we never thought possible. The galaxy itself seems to be evolving. The evidence was undeniable. The luminary, once dependent on synthetic repairs, now grew stronger crystal structures after each healing. Quantum beings learned to stabilize their own probability fields. Even the ancient hive minds discovered they could repair collective consciousness damage naturally. But perhaps the most significant change, Rena continued, isn't in our bodies, but in our understanding. We've learned that true healing isn't about returning to what we were. It's about growing into what we can become. First speaker Kilara, their light patterns shimmering with pride, addressed the assembly. Dr. Vale's work has done more than revolutionize medicine. It has reminded us of a fundamental truth. Life itself is an ongoing process of healing, adaptation, and growth. The chamber's atmosphere shifted as a group of young medical students entered. A mixed class of various species, all trained in both technological and natural healing arts. Among them was Dr. Nex's offspring, their gaseous form already showing signs of enhanced stability. These students, Dr. Zixtel announced, represent our future. They understand that medicine isn't about choosing between technology and nature. It's about finding the balance between them. Rena watched as the students demonstrated their skills, each bringing their species' unique perspectives to the healing arts. A crystalline student showed how they'd adapted human bone knitting techniques to crystal repair. A synthetic being demonstrated how they'd incorporated biological healing patterns into their code. A year ago, Rena reflected, the galaxy feared human healing abilities. Today, we understand that these abilities were never uniquely human. They're a fundamental aspect of life itself, one we'd simply forgotten in our rush to replace natural processes with technological ones. The presentation concluded with a stunning revelation. Species throughout the galaxy were reporting increased resilience to various forms of damage and stress. The reawakening of natural healing abilities had triggered a wave of evolutionary adaptation across known space. Later, in the Council's private chambers, Rena sat with her closest colleagues, watching the celebration through the transparent walls. Dr. Zixtel's appendages moved in patterns she now recognized as contentment. "Did you ever imagine," the arachnoid physician asked, "that your emergency surgery on Nexus Station would lead to all this?" Rena smiled, remembering that first frightened reaction to human healing. Honestly, no. But that's the beauty of natural healing, isn't it? You never know exactly how you'll grow from the experience. Dr. Nexus, now a leading researcher in gaseous medicine, swirled thoughtfully. The real question is, what's next? Where does this evolution lead us? That's the exciting part, Rena replied, watching as a distant star sparkled through the station's newly adaptive transparent panels. We've only just begun to understand what we're capable of, all of us together. Outside, the galaxy continued its eternal dance, but now with a difference. In countless medical facilities, research centers, and healing chambers, beings of all species were rediscovering their natural strength. The fear of human healing abilities had transformed into a celebration of life's endless capacity for growth and adaptation. And somewhere, on a distant medical station, another young doctor was probably about to break all the rules of conventional medicine, and in doing so, help the galaxy heal just a little bit more.